The Nevada heat wasn't just hot. It was a physical weight pressing down on my chest, sucking the moisture right out of my skin. I stood by the gas pump, the nozzle still in my hand, watching the dust cloud kick up behind my father's black SUV. The red taillights faded into the shimmer of the horizon, disappearing like a mirage. I didn't run. I didn't scream. I just stood there, the smell of gasoline thick in my nose, replaying his parting words. Let's see if you can walk home. Maybe that will teach you gratitude. Gratitude. For what? For being the invisible servant? For being the punchline to every family joke? I put the nozzle back in the cradle with a quiet click. I patted my jeans pocket. No phone. Just the crinkle of a receipt for a 12-ounce soda I'd bought inside. $1.29. That was my net worth in that moment. I turned my back on the dust cloud. They expected me to chase them. They expected me to panic. Instead, I walked toward the station door. Before I tell you how I turned that receipt into the ultimate invoice 15 years later, drop a comment and let me know where you're listening from and what time it is for you right now. I'd love to know who's part of our community. The air conditioning in the gas station lobby was a shock, cold enough to make me shiver despite the sweat on my back. I walked to the counter, the linoleum sticky under my sneakers. The attendant, a guy named Rick with grease under his fingernails and a name tag that hung crooked, looked up from his magazine. He saw me, really saw me, in a way my family hadn't in years. He saw the dust on my jeans, the way my hands were empty, the way I was alone. Car trouble, he asked. Something like that, I said. My voice sounded strange, raspy, like I hadn't used it in days. Can I use your phone to call a taxi? He blinked. Taxi? Nearest one is in Ely. That's 40 miles away. Gonna cost you a fortune. I have money, I lied. I had the soda receipt and a debit card with maybe $200 on it. I just need the number. He pushed a landline across the counter. As I dialed, I waited for the panic to hit. The sobbing. The desperate urge to call my mother and beg her to come back, to promise I'd be quieter, more grateful, less me. But the panic didn't come. Instead, a strange calm settled over me. It was like a switch had flipped. Growing up, I was the invisible servant. Tyler was the sun, the moon, and the stars. I was the gravity that kept him in orbit. I did his homework. I cleaned his room. I took the blame when he broke the neighbor's window. My parents called it being a good sister. I called it survival. I thought if I made myself indispensable, if I carried enough of their weight, they'd eventually love me for it. But love isn't a transaction. You can't buy it with labor. The taxi dispatcher picked up on the third ring. Ely cab. Where you at? The Texaco off Highway 93, I said. I need a ride to the bus station. It'll be about an hour, the voice crackled. Meter starts when we leave the garage. That's fine. I hung up and leaned against the counter. Rick was still watching me. You sure you don't want to call your folks? Maybe they just forgot. I laughed, then a dry, sharp sound. No. They didn't forget. They're teaching me a lesson. See, that was the thing about my family. They didn't shout. They didn't hit. They corrected. They abandoned me in a desert not to hurt me but to fix me. To make me realize how much I needed them. It was a conditioning program designed to break my spirit so I would fit back into the small, silent box they'd built for me. The invisible chain of the survivor. That's what it was. The belief that if you just endured enough pain you'd earn your freedom. But standing there watching the heat shimmer off the asphalt, I realized the chain was gone. They'd driven away with the lock. And for the first time in 22 years, I wasn't waiting for permission to leave. I was already gone. I bought another soda and sat on the curb to wait. An hour later, a yellow cab pulled up, kicking up dust. I got in without looking back. That ride cost me $148.50. I kept the receipt. I tucked it into my wallet like a talisman. It was the price of my freedom. And I knew with absolute certainty that one day I would be the one collecting the debt. The years didn't pass. They accumulated layer by layer, like the sediment in the canyon walls I'd left behind. I didn't go home. I went to a town 3 states over, found a job in a bakery washing dishes and started over. I learned to knead dough until my arms ached and my mind went quiet. I learned that yeast is alive and needs to be fed just like hope. I met Marcus, an architect who looked at me like I was the blueprint for his favorite building. We built a life. A quiet, sturdy life that smelled of bread and blueprints. 15 years. That's 5,475 days of silence. Thought I was safe. I thought the invisible chain had rusted away completely. Then on a Tuesday morning that smelled of cinnamon and rain, the bell above the bakery door jingled. I was behind the counter boxing up a dozen croissants for a regular. I looked up, a professional smile ready on my lips. The smile died. Standing there, shaking a wet umbrella, was my mother, Elizabeth. She looked exactly the same, just a little softer around the edges, her hair the same expertly dyed blonde. She was looking around the bakery with a critical, approving eye, as if she were inspecting a hotel room she hadn't booked but decided to tolerate. Charming, she said to no one in particular. A bit rustic but charming. Behind her the door opened again. Timothy walked in. My father. He looked older, his shoulders stooped, but his eyes were the same, calculating, assessing value. And then Tyler. My brother. He was wearing a suit that looked expensive but fit poorly, tapping away on a smartphone, barely glancing up. They were here. In my sanctuary. In the life I built from scratch. Can I help you? My voice was steady. That surprised me. Elizabeth turned, her eyes widening in theatrical delight. Olivia. Well, look at you. A little tired maybe, but well. She walked around the counter as if she owned the place, reaching out to hug me. I took a step back. Her arms fell, but her smile didn't falter. It was the smile of someone who has decided that the past is a draft they've already edited. We were just in the neighborhood, Timothy said, stepping forward. Thought we'd see how our girl was doing. It's been a while. A while. I repeated. It's been 15 years. You left me at a gas station. Tyler finally looked up from his phone. Oh, come on, Liv. Don't be dramatic. We circled back like 20 minutes later. You were gone. We were worried sick. I stared at him. The audacity was breathtaking. It wasn't a lie to them. I realized that in that moment. They had rewritten the story. In their version, I was the one who ran away. I was the one who abandoned them. They had turned their cruelty into my rebellion. It was a masterclass in narcissism, the ability to delete your own sins to preserve your self-image. We looked everywhere, Elizabeth added, her voice trembling with practiced emotion. But we knew you'd land on your feet. You were always so resourceful. Resourceful. That was code for, we didn't have to take care of you. Why are you here? I asked. How did you find me? LinkedIn, Tyler said, smirking. Nice profile picture, by the way. Very artisanal. We just want to reconnect, Timothy said, his eyes scanning the busy bakery, the line of customers, the awards on the wall. Family is family, Olivia. You can't just erase that. We missed you. They didn't miss me. I knew that look in my father's eyes. It was the look of a man appraising a property he intended to flip. They didn't want a reunion. They wanted something. I'm working, I said. I don't have time for this. We'll wait, Elizabeth said cheerfully, pulling out a chair at the best table by the window. We have all day. We can grab dinner later. There's so much to catch up on. She sat down, gesturing for the others to join her. They settled in, occupying my space, breathing my air. The invisible chain rattled. They thought they could just walk back in and pick up the leash. But I wasn't the girl at the gas station anymore. I was the woman who owned the building. Fine, I said. Dinner. Tonight. 7 o'clock. But not here. My house. I gave them the address. They looked pleased, triumphant even. They thought they had won. They thought I was opening the door. I was. But not to let them in. I was opening it to show them the exit. 7 o'clock sharp. My house wasn't a mansion, but it was mine. Paid for. Clean. Quiet. Marcus stood in the kitchen, leaning against the granite island, drying a wine glass. He didn't say a word, just gave me a look that said, I'm here. I'm the wall they can't break. When the doorbell rang, I didn't jump. I walked to the door, took a breath that tasted of my own expensive candles, sandalwood and victory, and opened it. They swarmed in like they were doing me a favor. Elizabeth cooed over the crown molding. Timothy assessed the square footage with a surveyor's eye. Tyler just looked hungry. Nice place, Tyler said, dropping his keys on my entry table without asking. A little far from the city, though. We like the quiet, I said. We sat in the living room. I didn't offer drinks. I didn't offer food. I sat in the armchair, Marcus perched on the armrest beside me, a unified front. They sat on the sofa, a huddled mass of need disguised as benevolence. So, Timothy started, clapping his hands together. We didn't just come to catch up. We brought an opportunity. I almost smiled. Opportunity. The narcissist's favorite word for a trap. Tyler leaned forward, elbows on his knees. I've got this thing, Liv. Cryptocurrency. Next generation blockchain tech. It's huge. But the window is closing. I need liquid capital to secure the initial buy-in. How much? I asked. My voice was flat. 45,000, Tyler said. He tried to say it casually, like he was asking for a glass of water, but his voice cracked on the 1,000. Just a short-term loan. I'll double it in 3 months. Split the profits with you. It's a sure thing. A sure thing, I repeated. It is, Elizabeth chimed in, her eyes wide and pleading. Tyler is so smart with these things, Olivia. He just needs a little push. Family helps family. That's what we do. Like you helped me at the gas station? The air left the room. Timothy cleared his throat, a low, angry rumble. That was a long time ago. We're talking about the future. We raised you, Olivia. We put a roof over your head. Clothes on your back. You think that was free? There was. The invoice. The transactional nature of their love laid bare on my coffee table. They didn't see a daughter. They saw an investment that hadn't paid out yet. So this 45,000, I said, looking at Timothy, not Tyler. This is for crypto? Nothing else. Tyler nodded too fast. Strictly crypto. And your real estate agency, Dad? I asked. How's that doing? Timothy stiffened. Business is fine. The market is tough, but we're managing. Why? Because if I'm going to invest, I said, leaning back, crossing my legs, I need to run the numbers. I don't lend money on feelings. I lend on data. We don't have the paperwork with us, Tyler stammered. That's fine, I said. I'll need full access. Your portfolio, Tyler. And Dad, I want the business records for your agency. Profit and loss statements for the last 2 years. And the address of your office building. I want to see where you're operating. Why do you need my office address? Timothy snapped. This is Tyler's deal. Due diligence, I said calmly. If the family finances are intertwined, and I know they are, I need to see the whole picture. If you want a check for $45,000 by Friday, you'll get me those documents by tomorrow morning. Timothy looked at Elizabeth. Elizabeth looked at the floor. They were trapped. They needed the money too badly to say no. They thought they could dazzle me with BS, but they had forgotten one thing. I ran a business. I managed margins. I knew exactly what desperation looked like because I used to see it in the mirror every day. Fine, Timothy spat. We'll send it over. But don't think you can lord this over us. We're doing you a favor letting you in on this. Of course, I said. I'm very grateful. They left 10 minutes later. The silence they left behind was heavy but clean. Marcus looked down at me. You know he's lying about the crypto. Oh, absolutely, I said, standing up. Tyler doesn't have a portfolio. And Dad's business isn't fine. They're drowning. I just need to find out how deep the water is. I didn't go to sleep. I went to my laptop. I had an LLC to check. The next morning wasn't emotional. It was forensic. I sat in the glass-walled conference room of my lawyer's office downtown. Sarah, my attorney, slid a thick binder across the mahogany table. It hit the surface with a heavy, satisfying thud. This wasn't family therapy. This was due diligence. I pulled the records you asked for, Sarah said, tapping the cover. And Olivia, it's worse than you thought. It's not just bad business. It's criminal. I opened the binder. Inside were the documents Timothy had emailed at 2 a.m., messy profit and loss scans, a childish-looking balance sheet, and the address of his office. 1400 Commerce Street, Suite 302, I read. Sarah raised an eyebrow. Ring a bell. It's in a commercial park, I said slowly. My holding company bought several distressed units there months ago. I froze. I own 1400 Commerce. You do, Sarah said, smiling. Which means Timothy isn't just your father. He's your tenant. I felt the irony hit like a punch. The man who once kicked me out of his car was behind on rent to me. How bad? I asked. 3 months. $44,800. She flipped to a tab marked arrears. Eviction starts next month. Then came the real twist. She laid out the income numbers he gave the property managers versus the tax returns he sent me. They didn't match at all. He faked his financials to renew the lease, I said quietly. Bank fraud, wire fraud, take your pick, Sarah replied. Report it and he goes to prison. I closed the binder, remembering every moment they'd made me feel small. They had no idea they were sitting across from the landlord who held their fate. Draft the eviction notice, I said. And calculate 15 years of interest on a $140 cab ride. I have a bill to collect. Friday morning they arrived at my bakery's small conference room, smiling, confident, certain they'd get their $45,000. Is that the check? Tyler asked when I slid the thick envelope across the table. Not yet, I said. These are my terms. Inside was a faded soda receipt from 2008 and the cab receipt from the night they abandoned me. I'd run the numbers. We were even. Then Timothy pulled out the real document. Notice of lease termination and eviction. His face drained. You own the building? I do. And you're 3 months behind. Funny how it matches your crypto opportunity amount. Elizabeth broke first. We don't have the money. I know, I said. And I saw the fraudulent statements you submitted. Timothy whispered, you wouldn't report us. I haven't. That's your mercy. You're not going to prison. But you are leaving my property. They went silent. When they left, I locked the door behind them. The eviction was quiet. No scenes, no shouting. Just defeat. I watched from my car as movers cleared the office. Timothy looked small. Elizabeth wouldn't meet my eyes. Tyler was gone. I didn't feel triumphant, just free. Back at the bakery, the warm smell of dough wrapped around me. Marcus looked up from the oven. It's done. It's done, I said. As I kneaded a ball of dough, push, turn, fold, I realized something. They thought leaving me in the dirt would kill me. But the dirt is where things root. Where things grow. The best revenge isn't destruction. It's building a life so strong that their absence doesn't matter. I looked around at everything I'd built. My peace. My work. My future. I had won, because I no longer needed them to lose.